welcome to Spilled Ink.
Well, this is amazing, and I know I say that every week. Today we are joined by Seattle Prep great, former Seattle Prep great, DJ Fenner. DJ, how are you, man?
I'm doing great, man. I'm doing great. I'm still blessed to be able to dribble a ball still. I'm in Lithuania here with my wife and three kids, and I'm just still on the path to greatness, man.
And Lithuania, what is that like? How long have you been there?
I've been here now for about 4 months. I don't know, let's see, since August. So it's going by quick. It's actually a very difficult season so far. We still have a lot of games left, but we've lost quite a bit. We're in last place, trying to change things around. It's not the easiest place to live. Small city, about 3,200 people, man. It's really tiny. Not many people speak English, but it's still awesome, man. I still get to play against a lot of great players that I remember playing against in college and in the pros. So it's a blessing still.
How many places has basketball taken you in your career?
Ooh, um, a lot of places. I can't even. I mean, Europe alone, probably like 10 different countries now, and then of course all throughout the States with all that. So yeah, but it's been one heck of a journey. I started in Hungary and I've gone through many European countries, Portugal, Finland, Poland, and I've had three kids in three different European countries and now I'm here in Lithuania. So mhm.
What is that like? I mean, for me, I lived in
Mhm.
Germany for 4 years when I was a kid. I really appreciated the cultural experience. It sounds like it's challenging, but there has to be an
Mhm.
aspect of, wow, look at the life I get to lead, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I think first and foremost, it is challenging. You obviously have to adjust everywhere you go, just with a language barrier alone. And then, but it is a huge blessing because I feel so much more. I don't know if like versatile or diverse is the word, but it's really just like I feel like I'm able to communicate with a lot more people. And it's like much easier to understand a lot of people from different backgrounds and even just trying to communicate with somebody with a Google Translate. It's hard.
Hmm.
You know,
Hmm.
but it's I think more so I think my kids are it's like being instilled in them at young ages and they don't even realize like that they're becoming like well versed and meeting all these different people, so I'm really happy about that.
Hmm. And as an athlete, you maybe have a different experience with this than I do, but when I lived in Germany and I would come back to visit in the States, the one
Hmm.
thing it was like I couldn't wait to go to like a McDonald's, right? And
Right, you're
and I know that
right.
you can get that in Europe, but there was just
Yeah.
something about coming home and getting
Hmm.
some fast food or whatever it is your
Yeah.
American fix.
Yes, yes. For me, it's always Chick-fil-A, man.
Okay.
And then in the Seattle area, it's always like a teriyaki spot. You don't really find teriyaki spots throughout the world, honestly. It's like
Mhm.
Seattle is like the only place I've been like in Washington State that has like all these different teriyaki spots. And so that's for me, that's like the my go-to. I mean, but man, and Popeyes, but the food is different, so it's like, it's there's much more butter and sugar and salt in the States. And so you like I'll go through a whole season and be eating kind of like well and not so much salt. And then I go home and I'm like, oh my goodness, man,
Mhm.
it's just the most amazing, but Popeye's butter biscuit I've ever had in my life. So
Yeah, it just tastes a little bit better. Just,
yeah.
a little bit better. Do
Exactly.
you how much time do you spend back here in Seattle? Do you come here in the off season or where's your home?
Um, yeah, usually we do come there in the off season. I run a basketball program out of Seattle just to, really help kids and mentor them and a lot of beginner basketball kids. But mostly kids who really want to, learn about themselves, find something or, use basketball somehow. So I kind of try to get it out of them. But usually, yeah, I'll come home in the summer. Like this summer, we'll be there for most of the summer, so we can focus on the basketball program. But yeah, usually it's like we have to try to figure out where to go because there's Seattle, but my wife, she's from Indiana, so and then my dad is lives in DC, so we always sometimes we might make all three stops, but this summer we'll just go to Seattle
Okay.
first. So
Where in Indiana is your wife from?
she's from Jeffersonville, Indiana,
Okay.
so right there in Louisville, Kentucky, like right
Oh,
across the bridge there.
oh, nice. Yeah, I'm a
Yeah.
random. I'm a huge Indiana Pacers fan. So anytime
Oh, really?
I hear of somebody from Indiana, I'm always
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah, nice. Yeah.
Uh, so it's state tournament time here, and I know you have probably a lot of good memories of that time. Actually, it's funny. Earlier this season, how small the basketball community is here. I saw Mitch Brewy at
Oh,
the
did
Seattle
you?
Prep game. Yeah, and it
Oh, okay.
immediately made me
Awesome.
think back to that team.
Yeah.
What do you remember of that time?
I remember tears, man. Like losing the state championship to Rainier Beach. And I just remember just crying so hard. Because like I remember feeling like I never wanted something so badly before in my life. Like I think I got that feeling once my senior year of college when we won the Mountain West Conference championship and went on to the NCAA tournament. That was like one of those feelings that was like, like I want it so bad. And I just remember wanting it so bad and just kind of giving it my all, but it just came up short, and that's how the story went.
Mhm. I think if I remember correctly, and I mean, I know a lot of time has passed, but wasn't there a crazy game, like a tournament game in at Bellevue College, like district
Mhm.
or something like that, where you had a crazy comeback? Or do you know what I'm talking about?
I do remember, I think it was against Beach, if I'm not mistaken. And I think it was for like the conference something or other conference
Mhm.
championship or something. I can't even remember it anymore. It's crazy. But I just remember, yeah, I remember playing against like Rio Adams and Will Dorsey, and they had a heck of a squad. And yeah, I think I remember just getting hot and then like just hitting a shot off the glass, and I remember making that shot, and I was like, I can't miss. Like everything's going up and in. And
Mhm.
yeah, but that was a lot of fun in those
That's
days.
yeah, that's what I remember. I definitely remember that. Yeah, that was fun. Okay, and so one of the things that I have loved talking to guys about are other players like, so who you mentioned Rio, who were the
Hmm.
guys then? I think Tony Roten was probably at Garfield at the time.
He was older. I think he left.
Okay,
I think he was at UW already. Yeah, my junior year.
okay.
Um, but who the guys I played against or
Yeah, yeah.
or
Who were some of the best play, like some of the best matchups you can remember?
yeah, man. Ooh, that's a good. Ooh, man. Those East Side kids always like gave me trouble for some reason. But I remember there was one dude. I'm not sure if I played against him, but he was really good. It was Todd something. You remember
Oh, Ryan
Todd?
Todd from Jackson?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Jackson. Yeah, I remember him being so good. Do you know if where he went to play or?
Yeah, he went to Portland, I believe.
Okay, okay.
Yeah, and I don't, I don't really remember. Or wait, yeah, I don't. Let's see. Oh no, it's Jason Todd. Ryan Todd was his.
Jason Todd.
Yeah,
Jason
yeah.
Todd.
Ryan
Yeah,
Todd was his
Jason
older
Todd.
brother
Yeah,
who played with
that's
Brett
right,
Kingma
Jason.
at Jackson. Yeah, so
Right, that's
yeah,
right.
yeah. No,
Um,
he was great.
yeah.
I don't remember. I was kind of out of the scene by the time he made it to college. But
Uh,
yeah, I remember he was a great high school player. I'm trying to think of
yeah.
the other guy. Did you play against Gary Bell?
He was older.
Okay.
He was a little older. I don't remember playing against him.
Okay.
I remember playing against like Suki Wiggs
Oh,
at
right.
O'Day.
Right.
Yeah, yeah,
Did you
and Barry
ever get to
on.
play against Zach Levine?
I never got the chance to
Okay.
play against Zach. No, because
Okay.
he was at Bothell,
Yeah.
4A. Yeah. I've always wanted to play against Zach, but we played on the same AU team as kids as at Rotary, so we grew up together. But yeah, we never got a chance to play against each other in high school. I thought that would be a fun matchup at that
Mhm.
time.
What uh what made that Seattle prep team special with you and Mitch and
Yeah, I think it was a lot of how like we kind of ended up finding like our like roles and learning how to gel together. We had a group of seniors, Mitch Brewy, Jackson Clough, and Michael Phillips, and maybe like a couple other seniors.
Mhm.
And they were, kind of, and like me, I was in their class when I went to St. Joe's
Mhm.
in Capitol Hill, but then I ended up moving to DC and repeating seventh grade with Nate Britt and Chris Jenkins,
Okay.
who, if you don't remember, Nate Britt played at North Carolina and Chris Jenkins hit the game winner versus North Carolina when he was at Villanova.
Oh, right. Okay.
So yeah, so we like grew up together, but I just remember yeah, I forgot where I was going with that. But uh yeah, I ended up leaving and then coming back. Oh yeah, and then being a grade under the guys that I went to St. Joe's with.
Mhm.
So they kind of all grew up at Seattle Prep, at St. Joe's, Seattle Prep, and it was kind of like I was trying to like kind of like fit in, but
Mhm.
really like kind of like help them and like that group kind of win. You know what I'm
Mhm.
saying? And so they ended up kind of like basically like just allowing me to kind of gel with them and like finding, my role because I was really just like kind of just like score score the ball.
Mhm.
I wasn't thinking pass too much, you know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
So it's like we kind of had to learn how to play together. And yeah, I think it was just a great communication. I remember we spent a lot of time off the court together. I actually lived with Jackson Clough that season. So it was a fun, it was a good time.
Mhm. Well, and that's the
Yeah.
crazy thing for you is that I've always, and I don't think we've ever really talked about it, is
Hmm.
you had quite the journey. Like
Yeah.
you were all over the place. Because
Yeah.
didn't you spend time, you were at O'Day too, right? For
I
about,
was like, when I
yeah.
came back from so I yeah, it was crazy, man. Because I left St. Joe's, moved to DC for 2 years, and then I came back to prep my freshman year, and then I left again, and I played at Gonzaga High School in DC with Chris and Nate,
Mhm.
and then came back again my junior year, and I was gonna go to O'Day, so I played with Al. So I was playing with Suki and Perry on that summer, and
Mhm.
then I remember playing against Prep in the summer league, us beating them, and I just felt so bad. Like it didn't feel right. Like
Yeah.
like my boy Jackson just like we shook hands after a game, and he just looked so disappointed. And
Mhm.
I remember that look, and I was like, I don't think I really want to go to O'Day anymore.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
that's when I was like, all right, let's try to go back to Prep, and they let me back in, so it worked out.
That's great. Just hearing those names, Perion was a great player
Right.
as well. And then he ended up at Bothell, right? With Zach.
Yep. And Josh Martin.
Right.
Yeah.
Wait, because Josh started at prep too, didn't he?
Josh started at prep. Yeah. 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 That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's funny how that worked out.
I know. Did you play with Josh?
I never play. Oh, yeah. Did I play with Josh my freshman year? Yeah. Or
Okay.
his freshman year. Yeah. His
Yeah.
freshman year.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. That's wild. I mean, just and the one thing that I've been noticing, I've been plugging myself back into the high school community for about a year now. And
Yeah.
the one thing that seems constant for me is how many guys are still here, training kids or
In
just
the
in the
scene,
basketball community.
coaching.
Yeah, like people just they
Yeah.
come back. And
Yeah.
as
Yeah.
as someone who does that, like what is it?
Mhm.
What is it about that?
First of all, I think it's really special. You got to understand, like when I left DC or Seattle from St. Joe's, like we were talking about, people didn't really know about Seattle across the world. You know what I'm saying? Like there was a few guys, obviously Jamal and like Marvin Williams, Aaron Brooks, like those guys, you know. Um, but people didn't really like Seattle wasn't really on the map, you know, and so it was like really cool to be like a part of like the growth of Seattle. Like I think
Mhm.
I remember like Slam had mentioned a bunch of names in one of their magazines, and I was in, and I was like, "Well, I really feel like I'm a part of this. Like this is
Mhm.
awesome," you know. And so now looking at it, it's like every summer I come back and I'll have a team in the Marvinas summer league, and we'll play and I'll play in the pro am and just see all the same faces, you know.
Mhm.
And it's just really cool to see like guys I grew up with, hung out with, and had sleepovers with, are now high school coaches, you know.
Mhm.
And they're, you know, or some guys are teachers and they're doing this and they're doing that, and some kids have they're coaching their sons, and I'm just like, man, this is so awesome to be a part of. And it's a blessing to be a part of, because it's, you know, it's like, you know, you just kind of just continue to help Seattle basketball and the community and people grow, and then most importantly the kids, you know, teaching the kids. And that's a big part of why I run that program, is to really just give back and help kids, because I remember I used to want that help, and to
Mhm.
be able to give it is a great feeling,
Mhm.
better than playing overseas, man. It's telling you.
You know, that's actually, it's funny that you say that because I was just talking to Talia Walton, now the girls coach at Prep, and
Okay.
she told me, and she played at UW and was at Federal Way, and you know, they went to the Final Four with Kelsey
Hmm.
Plum,
Oh
and
wow.
they just so Prep just won the district title, and I asked her about it, and she said that that meant more to her than going to the Final Four, and
Really?
to me, that's fascinating because
Hmm.
and I think that in some ways it is different for you know, players from here who go into coaching because it's as important to give back as it was to have success as a player.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And you know, you know, throughout my career, there's times where I'm like, man, I don't know if I want to keep playing, you know, and times where it's hard to find a job overseas. So, you know, I had been working at home at a consignment shop, or, you know, I actually worked up at Stretch 22 in Seattle. And, you know, just going through that time, it's just like, you know, you just want to just try to find out like how to find that love for the game again.
Mhm.
And then I spend like a summer training a kid, and then the next summer that same kid comes back, and then the next summer, his family invites us to train him at their place in Puerto Rico. You know what I'm saying? And then I'm
Yeah.
like, every summer, and then it's just like helping these kids and running these camps and doing these trainings and seeing these kids grow and seeing their excitement to learn from me. And it's just like, oh man, it's just like, that's where the love of the game really is. You know, I mean, like
Mhm.
it could be awesome scoring a lot of points and screaming and playing in front of big crowds and being big teams. Don't get me wrong, but you know, still it's even still like making kids smile, you know, at games or when I train them is just it's it's fulfilling, you know. It's more
Mhm.
fulfilling than actually, you know, going out there and performing to me for some reason. I don't
Mhm.
know.
Yeah, no, I get that. I don't coach at the same level, but I coach my 7-year-olds. I help with the
Yeah,
soccer team and I help with the baseball team. And
awesome.
man, I love those kids, you know?
Yeah.
Like you just don't realize, you know, I mean, honestly, growing up, I was like, I love covering high school kids. The thought of
Uh-huh.
having kids of my own, I was like, I don't know. And then
Right.
other people's kids, I was like, I'm not really, you know, I'm not great around kids. And all of a sudden I have a kid. I'm like, oh, I love kids. You know, I love doing
You're
this stuff.
right.
It's
You're
great.
right.
You know, and that's really cool. Like, so I don't know. I'm so thankful to get to be a part of this community in a small way and see
For sure.
what y'all are doing. And that's cool. And that brings me to something that I'm really trying to ask a lot of people because I don't have any data. I don't have any hard
Hmm.
facts. It's all anecdotal. But it
Hmm.
feels like to me that the reason Seattle became a great basketball, like a truly great basketball city from producing talent, was because of Gary and Sean with the Sonics. To me, they were you know, the most exciting team in basketball for a long
Hmm.
time. And that led to guys like Jamal, who then, and then because they've given back, but I feel
Hmm.
like there's really a direct correlation between Sean and Gary, that first kind of group that sparked everything else.
Yeah, yeah. No, I could totally agree with that. Because yeah, I totally agree with that. And I think like that's our job though. I feel like as a basketball player who's given so much to the game, like you want to, and who has received so much from the game, you want to give that to the kids. You just want to keep passing it along, and the more popular the game gets, and it's still becoming more popular. People, like
Mhm.
people don't realize that. Like basketball is still new-ish. You know what I'm saying? Like
Mhm.
there's still a lot more long way to go. I think that's just kind of like what we feel like it's our duty, like to give back and help and then we see, the younger guys just absolutely, going crazy, and Paulo, for example, and I think Tari Eason from Seattle.
Mhm.
Like there's a lot of guys I don't even know, that I just like, oh, they're from Seattle. It's like wow.
Yeah, exactly. Like the other guys that like and I used to know all of them, and now there are so many that I
Yeah,
went back through and then start remembering like, oh yeah, Jalen Noel is from
yeah.
and all those guys and yeah, it's crazy. Now you said, do you play in Jamal's league?
Yeah, I usually do. They didn't have it last summer. But I usually do in the summer. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
What and to me that's sort of the again kind of the epitome of local basketball, right? Like,
yeah, yeah.
do you ever like play and you're like look around and think, wow, right? Like how did all
No,
these guys
it's
come from here?
yeah, it's awesome, man. Like it's like yeah, and like looking at all the even the players, like it's just like you guys really just flew in just for this game. I'm like,
Mhm.
this is in Seattle, like this is sick. You know what I'm saying? Like, um, but yeah, I think I mean, if we had an NBA team now, if we get an NBA team, I think basketball in Seattle would blow up even more.
Mhm.
I mean, like, and I think that will happen in the future. But yeah, I mean, Jamal's pro-am is like the best thing of that goes around there in the summer for basketball. So
Mhm. Yeah, it was
it's
crazy.
fun.
I guess it was probably 2 years ago when LeBron came, and people like waited
Yeah,
overnight, and then they couldn't. It was so packed and hot that
yeah,
they played, and then it was too. The floor was wet, and they couldn't go.
yeah.
Like to me,
It's too
that's
dangerous too.
yeah,
Like guys, people were just able to come on the court and kind of like some guy got really close to LeBron. Like that's it's kind of dangerous. Like
yeah.
Seattle is not the safest either. You know what I'm saying? Like if you think about the only these guys can play at these runs, etc. But otherwise, I mean, I mean, still, it's amazing. It's awesome.
Mhm. And as
Yeah,
someone who spent time in DC, another place where it's produced some great talent, how would you compare the two? I mean, it really like I was just kind of doing some number
yeah,
crunching recently, and even if you factor like take out the population, right? Just like
hmm
volume of guys, LA, New York, and not just guys who play, but play at a high level
yeah,
in the league. I would put Seattle I mean, I'm biased, right? But I would put Seattle number one. So I'm curious, like
Hmm.
your perspective as someone who has spent time on the East Coast, et cetera.
Hmm. Yeah, I don't know. It's a lot of people used to ask me that question, and really, I used to say, yeah, I used to say Seattle seems like more one-on-one basketball.
Hmm.
It's just because of the kind of players you watch. It was like Jamal was very elusive. You know what I'm saying?
Hmm.
Very like springy and like long and get his own shot off. And then there was Brandon Roy who he could score at from anywhere at any time basically. Tony Roden was also one of those like elusive kind of like lengthy attack. Now Seattle guys weren't necessarily known to be like the best shooters,
Hmm.
compared to like back then at least. But yeah, DC was always seemed more grimy to me. It just seemed
Hmm.
like grungier, like harder, and because I always gave credit to DC for kind of making me like a tougher player, so to
Hmm.
speak. I give credit to Seattle too, because I played in the suburbs until I came to Rotary. That was like the first time I actually played against like tough, tougher kids. But Seattle's like impoverished or areas or hoods are different
Hmm.
compared to like other places, and
Hmm.
and that's kind of how I saw that. Like in DC, it just seemed kind of like it seemed like there's way more groups of, like people hanging out on the corners, for example.
Hmm.
That's just and you might see some of those same people in the gym, for example. You know what I'm saying?
Hmm.
Like
Hmm.
playing about ball. So but I don't know, like it's for me, it's like I know I say I'm from Seattle. Part of me is from DC too. It was kind of hard to fit in just DC or just Seattle. You know what I'm saying? And
Hmm.
I still kind of feel the effects of that. But at the end of the day, like I think Seattle basketball has come such a long way to even be in the conversation with these big cities like DC, Maryland, Virginia, the DMV.
Hmm.
Be in a conversation with LA and the New Yorks or Floridas or whatever. So I think we're totally like not just on the map, but I think we're like at the top with everybody else now, which is just amazing.
Hmm. Yeah,
Yeah.
and I've lived quite a few places in my life, and I was in Bakersfield, California, so not in LA, but there was good talent
Hmm.
there. When I was in Florida, I don't know if you remember these guys, but Brandon Knight and Kenny Boynton,
Hmm. Of
were
course,
like,
yeah.
yeah, they were the dudes then, and they
Right.
were super fun to watch. And I don't know, like for me, it was just, and I think probably it's just volume, I mean,
Hmm. Yeah.
when I was at the Times, I mean, it
Hmm.
just like Zach and Perion and
Hmm.
Suki and you and Mitch and Rio
Right.
and
Right.
um, every team that was like elite, like even, Jackson, like Kingma and
Yeah.
Jason Todd
Yeah.
um, and then even like that Davis team, I know they were 4A, but they had Cooper Cup. Like they were
Yeah.
just
That's
like
right.
they were just guys. And
Yeah.
and to me that was like, and you talk about, one-on-one players, like to me that was what Florida was like 100%, right? Like these were just
Really.
dudes that were just, they were so much better than everyone else that they would just take over games. And not to say that guys here
Right.
wouldn't, but I think again, going back to the teaching of the game,
Right.
there's a lot of care here in,
Yeah.
understanding, particularly like, I mean, I think you played for, in some ways, the epitome of that in Mike Kelly, right? Like he
Hmm.
was very, and honestly, like, one of the things that I've found interesting spending time around him now is
Hmm.
he is, do you ever see him anymore?
I saw him a few years ago
Okay.
in the summer, but I haven't seen him since.
Okay. Yeah, he's definitely I don't think he'll admit it, but he's softened a lot, right? Like,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. Well,
yeah,
good. That's good.
yeah, I love I've always appreciated him, and
Uh,
I know he was really hard on you guys, and still is, but he definitely
Yeah.
he's got that softer side. Oh, I'm one of the reasons why I thought to message you was that do you remember Liam as a kid at your games?
Yeah, yes, I do.
Okay.
And he's playing
Okay.
now, right? He's in
Yeah.
high school now, right?
Yeah, and you were his favorite player. So
Oh, that's awesome.
yeah, so that was I was like, oh man, I gotta connect with DJ. As soon as he said that, I was like, oh yeah, that was fun. Like
Yeah, that's fun times.
those days were great.
Yeah.
Well, we're running out of time. I do want, there's one thing that I've always been curious, and I'm sure I asked you about it at some point, but
Uh-huh.
why did you choose basketball over football?
Oh, yeah, that's a great question. Sometimes I still wonder actually why. But no, yeah, I mean, because football, man, I like football was just came so naturally to me,
Mhm,
just and that's why I know it's like a real thing with like pros and their children, like I really believe that there's something to it.
mhm,
And because I just remember being so naturally good at the game of
mhm,
football. But I think, I would sit on the couch or I would sit in my living room with my family, and there would always be sports games on. And I remember thinking, oh man, should I go to the NFL? Because there's really bright lights and the helmets are really shiny.
mhm,
And then I was like, oh, should I go to the NBA because you can see your face and you make more money? And
mhm,
I just remember like kind of like thinking, so I remember thinking, okay, I'm gonna try to go the basketball route, kind of just for a little bit of that reason. But then it was like, oh, I can practice on my own,
mhm,
like I could dribble. I remember I used to dribble on my porch at like 3 o'clock in the morning in high school,
mhm,
like just dribbling, 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 and at Green Lake outside in the dark, like
mhm,
so I remember just really enjoying like the process of like working hard and improving with a basketball. And
mhm,
so once I stuck to that and started realizing like, oh, I'm getting better, I'm getting better, I'm getting better, I just was like, I'm gonna stick with that. I wanted to play football at Seattle Prep with Jackson my freshman year, but my dad just he convinced me not to. He was just so against it, which is kind of ironic, but he also knows kind of the toll that football has on the human body and brain. So
mhm,
yeah, so I went with basketball, and I don't regret it. Obviously basketball has taken me places I never thought I'd go. It's done so much for me and my family. So I'm really grateful for that. But I think I really would have enjoyed football in high school.
mhm,
I that's the one thing I think I would have done if I could do it again. Is just play multiple sports in high school.
mhm. It is really interesting to hear you say that your dad actually kind of pushed you away from football.
Mhm.
I mean, like, and obviously it's worked out. And I'd say, I'm kind of in the same boat. I'm like, I love football, but do I want my son
Mhm.
to play? I don't know if he'll be interested.
Yeah, right,
Um,
right.
yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah, yeah. My 4-year-old son, he's playing soccer now, and it's so cool for me because I never got the chance to play soccer as a kid. Like that was never even like a thought for my family.
Yeah,
Um, but he loves it here and he's learning, and it's in Europe, and I'm like, you want to play soccer? Feel free.
totally, totally.
I'm not against it. Whatever you want to do, you don't have to. But then I'll ask him. He wants to be a basketball player. He's only 4, but he says it.
Yeah. Well,
It's cool.
certainly, if it is genes related, he's got a great shot.
For sure.
Yeah. Well,
For sure.
I mean, like, I so appreciate this. Thank you for taking the time.
Of
Um,
course.
Definitely, when you're back in Seattle, hit me up.
Yeah, man.
If you need photos, for your guys, like,
Yeah.
for yourself, marketing, like you
Okay.
just let me know. And,
For sure. We'll be in touch
regardless,
for
like,
sure.
yeah, for sure, hit me up and let's catch up.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Awesome, man. I really do appreciate it, man. Thank you. Yeah, this is great. And we'll definitely stay in touch for sure.
Absolutely.